Okay, hello everybody. I see a few people kind of trickling in, so we'll give it a couple seconds while everybody gets logged on. Welcome, this is the Equity Taskforce Get to Know You webinar. We are happy that you're here. We will get started in just 1 minute. All right, I think we're leveling off here, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Rhiannon. I'm co-founder of the Equity Taskforce. I'm joined by my co-founder, Katelyn Thomas. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hey, everyone. I'm Katelyn.
We are here to do a get to know you about the Equity Taskforce and who we are and what we've done. We're excited to have you on our webinar. This is being recorded just so that you know, and it will be posted on our website and on our Facebook page. So we'll dive right in. I'm going to have Katelyn start telling her story from the beginning in January. Go ahead, Katelyn.
All right. So as most of you may have heard, I was a teacher for Mason. I taught there for 3 years as a special education teacher. I serviced primarily students with emotional impairments in a self-contained setting. Prior to teaching in Mason, I taught in Wayne Westland in a self-contained program for emotionally impaired students at the middle school. We moved here almost 4 years ago for my husband's job. That's what brought us to Mason. In January, on January 16th, I emailed a proposal to the Board of Education, the superintendent, and the 2 co-chairs of the diversity committee, Angie Vandekar and Mike Prelsnick. Mike Prelsnick was also my principal and one of my supervisors at the time. In the email, I proposed that Mason Public Schools join the Black Lives Matter at School National Week of Action. This is something that districts across the country participated in, large districts like Seattle, Detroit, and then also smaller districts in Michigan like Ypsilanti, Dearborn. So this was a widespread event that has been gaining traction over the past few years. And I suggested that Mason support this week of action, which was the first week of February, and thought that it would be a great way to introduce Black History Month to our students. I did not receive a response to my email on January 16th. On January 18th, I received an email from Krista Voss, who was another one of my supervisors. She's the director of special education. Krista informed me that I was required to attend a meeting with Mike Prelsnick and herself, and advised me to bring union representation along with me. I questioned what the intent of the meeting was for and was notified that it was to discuss chain of command and board policies. On January 25th, which is the date that Krista and Mike selected for this meeting, I attended with 2 union reps with me, one of whom was the union president. And in the meeting, I was informed that I was not able to freely talk about controversial topics in my classroom. And then there was an entire protocol, none of which I had done yet. I simply submitted a proposal. It's something that I had a desire to include and bring to my room, but had not done or acted on. And it was noted that their intent was to file a formal written reprimand within my professional teaching file. The union reps I had advocated to leave the result at that conversation, and that it was just an informative conversation, and that nothing should be filed. I had never been in trouble or reprimanded in my teaching career before. To my benefit, into the union's advantage, Mason Public Schools had never informed or educated staff, at least since my starting 3 years ago, about board policies. So due to the lack of informing staff, they were not able to actually file a reprimand against me because I was unaware. I didn't know board policy 2240 existed. I didn't know controversial topics were something that were limited in the district. I thought I was doing the right thing by emailing a proposal and trying to encourage this action to happen in our district. So, that was kind of where that left off. Following that meeting, I took, here's a quick snapshot of what I actually proposed the week of action. So within the week of action, Black Lives Matter at School is a curriculum. It is a separate entity from the Black Lives Matter movement. They are not in affiliation or partnership. It's a curriculum designed by educators. And it's endorsed by the National Education Association and recently the Michigan Education Association, which was really a positive thing to see that Michigan jumped on board with that. But they included a week of ideas, topics that they suggested you teach to within the actual curriculum. They give sample lessons. But what I sent to the board was this URL along with the days that are listed. So Monday, they wanted to talk about restorative justice, a lesson on empathy or loving engagement. Tuesday was diversity and globalism. Wednesday was talking about our LGBTQ community, so trans affirming, queer affirming lessons. And Thursday would have been Black families, Black villages, intergenerational, multi-generational communities and families. And then Friday was celebrating Black women and being unapologetically Black and Black joy. And within my proposal, I informed, being a special education teacher, I anticipated questions, but I informed the district that what this week of action would look like would vary based on grade level. So elementary to high school would look a lot different. And that's student ability. Being a teacher of students with emotional impairments, most of my students were at or above grade level in reading and at grade level across academics. So they were fully capable and deserve to have the same opportunities as their general education peers. So that I think that's an important thing to note, that a lot of times people hear, and I know when my story released, people hear special education, you shouldn't be worrying about teaching diverse topics, you should be worrying about teaching kids how to read. But that's a very broad misconception and misunderstanding amongst special education and what students are able to do and what opportunities they're afforded. And regardless of student ability, they should have the opportunity to have these same discussions and opportunities as other students. So after I had my meeting with administration, it was heavy. I was angry, I was sad, I was confused. I was like, I don't know what I did wrong. I thought I was doing the right thing by emailing the board and administration. What is a teacher supposed to actually do? So it was a lot of, emotions, talking with my family, like, this is not something I'm comfortable continuing in. This is not an environment that aligns with who I am as a person and what I believe in. They're not going in that direction. So I did take time to let it sink in, think about it, think about the consequences of my actions. I was very aware that it would have an impact on my students if I made a choice to leave the classroom. And that's something that it weighed on me, but I knew I was making the right decision, not just for myself, but for the larger community and for my students, knowing that you have to stand for something, and if it's okay to have ideas and to bring them forward. You shouldn't be punished for having an idea. And so on February 12th, I submitted my official letter of resignation. And on February 26th, that was my final day in the district. That's the day that the media released the events that happened, news of my resignation and what led up to it. We had a big feature in the Detroit Free Press and the Lansing State Journal, which really put a lot of spotlight on Mason and what's been going on here. And following the media release and attention, the next day, Rhiannon reached out to me, and she's a local advocacy consultant. She offered her support first and foremost, said, I'm here for you. I'm a local mom, community member. What do you need? And then offered her expertise and her, her professional capacity as an advocate as well. And we kind of blossomed from there. She had already had a group of parents and community members who had went to her and were like, what's going on? We started as this small group the day after my last day.
Yeah, it really started with a conversation between Katelyn and I work in healthcare policy, and I specifically work at the intersection of the LGBTQ and the marginalized communities. And I've done a lot of racial justice work outside of Michigan. A lot of my work is on a national scale, and so I've seen the good in Mason, and I thought, oh, okay, look, we can definitely do this. And I came to Katelyn and I thought, okay, well, we'll do kind of probably like a 6-week action, and we'll get some results and we'll be good to go. Here we are, however many months later, and it's looking like this is going to be a longer process. So I'm glad that the task force has taken this on. We did have one question I saw about these slides. The slides will be made available to everybody. So in February, we started this small group. It was a Facebook chat, and the group started getting larger and larger, and the chat kind of got unwieldy at a certain point. I think we reached 40 people in the chat, and I was like, okay, we can't continue to chat like this. And so we organized into a Facebook group called the Equity Taskforce of Mason, Michigan. Again, we started with about 30, 35, 40 people, and we have grown to 226 members. Our task force has grown from just a Facebook group to a publicly facing page. And we are looking towards the future, doing more education in Mason and in the surrounding areas. So Katelyn, I'll let you take this one.
Yep, so we are core group, we established a mission statement together, and that is that we are a community-centered group. We are made up of parents, grandparents, teachers, community members who are concerned about what's going on in Mason, who are engaged in creating systemic change through public school district policy and curriculum. And we hope to educate and inspire all community members in Mason and beyond into social justice work.
And we currently have submitted 3 asks to the Mason School District. Our 3 asks start with, and I'm sure you're familiar with these already, eliminate board policy 2240 on controversial topics. Again, this is the policy that was cited when Katelyn was reprimanded in the meeting. This policy allows our administration to use their bias to reprimand teachers for things like supporting Black Lives Matter, mentioning Black Lives Matter in the classroom, supporting the LGBTQ community, having any sort of conversation around pride or the LGBTQ community, things like that. Most recently on January 6th, we had an insurrection at our national capital. This was living history that was inescapable. It was everywhere on the news. The administration sent an email to the teachers forbidding them from talking about the insurrection. They were not allowed to talk about it. And that kind of comes under this controversial issues. We really, kids are going through a lot right now, and they need some help to be able to process that. and school is one of the places that they need that help. Number two, Mason Public Schools Policy and Curriculum Committee to add curriculums to include but not limited to the curriculum provided by Black Lives Matter at school. Again, we understand that the three words Black Lives Matter can elicit some strong emotions. We are not saying that this is the only curriculum. We're saying that this is probably the best curriculum out there. There's tons other curriculums, and we've solicited our group members to give us more curriculums so that we can put to Mason Public Schools, and we can talk a little bit about those as well. Number three is the district to provide the 3 to 5 year plan created by the Diversity Committee and how Mason Public Schools Diversity Consultant, Dr. Tishner, is being utilized throughout the district. So number three is kind of an exciting one for us because we actually did receive a lot of information from FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act. The FOIA, if you file it, it allows you to look at all publicly accessible documents. And because Mason is a public school, all documents not relating directly to teachers, to the employment of teachers is available to us. So we did go ahead and FOIA all of this information. We found that the district does not have a 3 to 5 year action plan like they had said they did. We have a very generic, plan, but it's not an action step. It's not a scope and sequence. There is no plan. We did get quite a few documents related to Dr. Tishner. We received his contract. So we are kind of diving through those things. It was quite a lot of information, so we're still in the process of going through that. So Katelyn, did you want to talk a little bit about our 3 asks and what you think is most important right now?
Yeah, right now, I think the most important ask is eliminating a full repeal of Board Policy 2240. I attended the policy and curriculum meeting last night with another task force member, and it was made very clear the district has no interest in a full repeal. They have made one slight edit to the existing policy. The existing policy was adopted by Neola. Neola is a consulting company that essentially mass produces school board policies. It's a group of lawyers that mass produces them and then sells them to school districts. The districts believe they're afforded a level of protection by adopting these pre-made policies as they're written by attorneys. Last night it was stated Board Policy 2240 is an optional policy. They do not have to have this one, yet they are choosing to and are choosing to continue to have this policy, despite having several teachers speak out against it. Policy 2240, the edit that they are proposing is that they would like teachers to have the option to, in appropriate scenarios, share responsible opinions of their own in the classroom. Now, when a school board member began to ask questions, what is responsible opinion and when is it appropriate? Our superintendent was unable to answer those questions and just said, we entrust that in our teachers. Yet without that guidance, teachers are fearful. Teachers are terrified that they're going to be reprimanded and called to a meeting for talking about something. And that leaves the door wide open for administrative bias to seep into our classrooms, to reprimand teachers without cause. And it's essentially a loophole for admin to have control in the classrooms. It was made clear there's no intent to repeal it. And before we can go anywhere with curriculum, we have to eliminate that policy. If we want to adopt a social justice aligned curriculum within our district, a policy, like 2240, one that limits or instills fear in our teachers, can't exist. There are several districts that are surrounding us that do not have this policy. So, it's important to note that Mason chooses to continue to have this one. They don't have to have it. And, within that, I think it's important to note that in receiving Dr. Tishner's contract, there's no producibles. He has one requirement in the contract, and that's to meet one time per month and then be available to consult with. And that was a concern of mine when I was teaching, and is a concern of several teachers still in the district, is he's not being consulted with in the appropriate scenarios. So an issue of diversity raises. Dr. Tishner had no idea about my situation, no clue, was not looped into it. And that's a prime example of something that our diversity consultant, that our tax-paying dollars are funding, he should have been brought into. And this scenario could have turned out differently. The same with students. When students are called a racial slur at the high school or middle school or even elementary, because it does happen, he's not being looped in. So that's something that stood out to me, is that how he would really be used in a positive way to help change our district is not happening. And I don't fault Dr. Tishner for that at all. He has a contract that was written by the district. And that's not on him. That's on what the district is asking him to consult on. And they're not asking him to consult on things in the buildings, at the building level. It's all at central office level.
Ultimately, what we have here is a lack of core value. And so Board Policy 2240 is providing cover for a district that does not have a core value of social justice and anti-racism. And so before we can do anything, we have to address 2240, and we have to get a full repeal of that board policy. Curriculum takes up to 3 years to install in a school district. So if we started today with a school district who was on board and ready to look at some social justice curriculum, it could take 3 years. And so we are focusing, we're not letting that one go, but we are focusing on our Board Policy 2240 so that we can create a core value of social justice and anti-racism to get to a place where they would be willing to look at curriculum.
I see a question about Dr. Tishner's contract in the chat. So, it was, to my knowledge, Dr. Tishner's services were, the district wanted to hire a diversity consultant following a very major incident at the high school in 2019. It was highly encouraged by Liz Evans, a member of our board, that we need help. The Mason's not able to do this on our own. Within that, what we know from his contract is it was a 1-year contract, which is up in this July, with the option to extend for 1 year. So it's a hefty contract. He's making a lot of money from the district.
Yeah.
A follow-up question, the board, Steve Dwayne asked last night, has the board considered not having, maybe it was Steve, it might've been Liz, not having 2240? And if so, what would be the ramifications? Superintendent Drzwicki did not answer that question. So it appears they are not even considering a repeal or not having it. It's not even on the table for them. They continue to use teacher protection as their reason for keeping this policy. But on the opposite end, it's being used against teachers.
There seems to be a disconnect there. I mean, the party line, or the line is that this policy protects teachers. However, every teacher that we've spoken to is absolutely terrified that they're going to get reprimanded or that they're going to be terminated because they said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing, wore the wrong shirt to school. All right, so we're going to move on here. The Equity Task Force has created an executive committee. This executive committee has evolved over the past 3 months. We've established this committee of core members to kind of guide us as somewhat of a steering committee. So you can see kind of what our core goals are here: strategizing and organizing for local school district actions, creating educational content for the community member engagement, and organizing local events. So we realized very, very quickly, Katelyn and I did, that we needed more voices, because Katelyn and I can be, an echo chamber, or we can be something really a lot stronger than that. And so bringing on these other voices was a great way to expand our reach and expand our minds and be able to be something more impactful. Another thing that we realized as soon as we brought the executive committee on was that organizing for the local school district change wasn't going to stop at the doors of the school buildings. That we really needed to provide educational content for the community members, for families around these students, for community influencers and leaders, to kind of understand why it was important for us to have diversity work in our community, why it was important for us to teach our children about inclusivity and about equity, and why we were even taking these steps. And so there was a need to raise the level of education within our community so that we could actually achieve the actions within the school district that needed to be done. And in that, we're also looking to organize local events as our membership grows and as we become more community facing. And so we have several coming up, and we'll tell you a little bit about those as we go on, but we're very excited. We have got a Pride picnic, our We Are the World story time, which is a diversity story time. Again, just trying to kind of raise the educational level for the community. These are our executive committee members. So of course you've got Katelyn and I, and then we have Rachel Brander, who you'll see here. Rachel, you want to give a wave?
Hey, everybody.
We've got Noelle Dolan. You can give us a wave, Noelle? Kelly Hannon. And we have Mary Lukes, and Mary actually has a kiddo birthday party tonight, so she is not on, but she would love to be here. I want to point out, we acknowledge that there are 5 white women and 1 woman of color on our executive committee. We also acknowledge that we don't have all of the answers. We are going to make mistakes, but we continue to reach out in partnership with our families of color to hold us accountable in all of that we do. And in that kind of vein, in that spirit of making sure that we continuously center our families of color, we continuously center our students of color, we have brought on 2 consultants to the Equity Task Force. And so the first consultant that we have is a retiring teacher from Mason High School. Many of you might recognize him. His name's Paul Cato. Paul is a wonderful man. He has worked extremely hard in the last 30 years that he's been teaching at Mason, and he's looking to rest and relax. And so we roped him in before he rested and relaxed, but he is coming on as a consultant for us to make sure that we are centered in our families of color. Our second consultant is Randy Watkins. He is an associate professor of sociology at Lansing Community College. He has been for quite many years. and he is also the vice president of the Lansing NAACP. So Randy has come on as a consultant as well, again, to kind of keep us centered, keep us focused, and make sure that the things that we are doing are not bringing harm to our families of color first and foremost. I'd like to mention here as well, we are in the process of speaking with the Lansing NAACP in a possible partnership. And so we will know by next week whether or not we're going to move forward with that Lansing partnership with the NAACP. Regardless, Randy will stay as a consultant with us. We are also looking into a couple of other partnerships with organizations that do this work as well. So very excited about that. We will keep you posted. Any of our executive committee members want to say anything here? Awesome. All right. Okay, so we are going to go into a timeline of actions that the Equity Task Force has taken since our inception. This is a long timeline, but what we wanted to do is really show you the work that we've put in to working with the Mason Public Schools, working with the district, attempting to really come to a place where we could have a conversation with them. We want to show you that we have been advocating, pretty much every day of our existence since we were created in February. There's been a lot of kind of, what is the Equity Task Force doing, and what have they accomplished? And as I was putting this together, it was just astounding the amount of work that this task force has put in to this community, and I'm really proud of it. So I'm going to let Katelyn kick us off with this slide, and I'll take the next one.
All right. So this all started obviously in February with my resignation. That's how we came to be. We started the Facebook group shortly after and began organizing and kind of trying to get the name out there about what we were doing within the Mason community. On March 1st, we submitted our first letter to the Board of Education. Our original letter did have 6 asks, which we did eliminate 3 of them based on we saw things that we needed to keep were things that were actionable. We needed action from the district. And the remaining 3 asks are what we've already presented. And we see those as tangible things that the district can actually do. March 17th, we participated in a parent-led effort to bring more diverse literature to Mason schools. And on March 18th, myself personally and my husband separately from me, we both applied to be on the diversity committee along with a few other task force members. And also we've heard from some community members who have applied, some of whom are people of color who deserve a seat on that committee. And we've all been denied. Essentially, this was an effort to keep us off the committee. And the diversity committee has since abruptly changed their format and started to establish norms and an application process now. This is something that administration did without consulting with the actual diversity committee members. This was a behind the scenes action that was very clearly made to restrict membership to task force members. So that happened on March 18th.
March 29th, Katelyn and I submitted our first request for a meeting with President Creamer, who is the president of the Board of Education. This was also when we first requested via email, formally requested the 3 to 5 year scope and sequence that Angie Vandekar, who is the diversity co-chair, said that the committee had created. On March 30th, we met with the Teachers Union President, Jennifer Saucer. She was gracious enough to meet with us, and we felt that that meeting was very productive. On April 2nd, we sent our second letter to the Board of Education and our second request for a meeting with the board and the administration of Mason School District. Like Katelyn said, our second letter was a condensed version of the first letter. It included the three actionable steps that we talked about earlier. That is the first one, 2240. The second one is curriculum, and the third one was related to the work of the diversity committee. On April 12th, so again, this is 2 weeks, a solid 2 weeks. President Kurt Kramer instructed Superintendent Drzwicki to meet with the task force. This is the first time that we had heard anything about meeting with us. And we had our first task force meeting where we identified our amazing executive committee.
And then on April 20th, we started advocating. We started a Facebook campaign to get the diversity committee to meet over the summer. We had members attend diversity committee meetings and urged the district that this work doesn't stop over the summer. This has to continue. Since then, nothing changed. Their last meeting was May 5th. The committee will not meet again until August or September. Their work around that was saying that subcommittees are meeting, but the subcommittees have no one to report out to. So they're going to be working all summer with nowhere to send the information and all the research and work that they're doing. So that's been a big letdown that they made that choice not to continue this work over the summer.
It's worth noting here as well that last summer, the subcommittees worked all summer on quite a few resources that have never seen the light of day. They've basically been canned. They were never presented to the full committee. They were never presented to the school district, and none of their recommendations have been taken by the diversity committee.
Yeah, and as a result of that, several teachers made a choice to step down from the diversity committee because they spent their entire summer endless hours and put in their hard work and their heart into that work, and nothing came of it. And a lot of teachers very much felt that it was wasted effort and fell on, the laps of administration who didn't want it to go anywhere. On April 21st, we created the community-facing Facebook page. So this page is really intended to provide educational resources for our community and to hopefully open up some conversations. We want to have these conversations. They're hard, they're uncomfortable conversations, but we've all got to start somewhere. And we feel that this is a good platform to hopefully get some engagement in our community and have people start to pay attention. On April 26th, we jumped on board in collaboration with Holt. They were gracious enough to, lend us all their resources. Their supplier and creator of the Our Black Students Matter shirts, which we're all wearing today. Today is our day of visibility and really our first big event. So we've got this webinar and our day of visibility. The intent of this was really to say, hey, to all of our Black students, we support you. You matter. We are here for you. You are seen. You are heard. You are a part of this community and you matter. And we extended this opportunity to Mason Public Schools Administration, Superintendent Drzwicki. We asked for their partnership, much like Superintendent Hornak, Dr. Hornak and Holt partnered. Their entire district supported the day of visibility in Holt. Mason did not respond to our email. So the lack of response made it very clear they weren't on board. And that was further brought to light at the final diversity committee meeting. That is posted on our page if you would like to view that clip about the conversation that unfolded. We had several teachers asking for resources about how to have these conversations with students, and ultimately administration did not engage. They said they would not distribute the requested resources, and it was left at that. Teachers were left to figure it out on their own, despite asking for help from their administration. On April 28th, we met with Superintendent Drzwicki, Diversity Co-Chair Angie Vandekar, who is also the principal at Harvey Education Center, and the Curriculum Director, Matt Stewart.
On May 3rd, we proposed a partnership with the district, again via email, in providing 15 free spots to teachers for the professional development, how to teach like an anti-racist. We found this professional development opportunity and we emailed them. Teachers all have to take a certain number of hours every year to keep their licenses up to date. New teachers have to take more hours. This professional development was on a Saturday, and we were offering to pay. It was $20 per spot. We were offering to pay for 15 teachers to go to this professional development. 2 days later, on May 5th, the district rejected our proposal for a partnership on anti-racist PD, citing that all PD must be approved and vetted by a district committee. We responded to this rejection asking how long they thought that would take. They, if they brought this to the professional development committee, how long would it take for them to vet it? We did not receive a response. May 5th was a big day. We attended a diversity committee meeting in which it was revealed, though we had requested a partnership 2 weeks prior with the district on our day of visibility, the district desired to remain neutral and would not be providing any support to the teachers or students on our t-shirts. This was the day that we decided as an executive committee that we were going to provide everybody who purchased a shirt frequently asked questions. We walked them through each of the topics that we had heard from our families and our students that they wanted to talk about. We've also provided that frequently asked questions to all teachers in middle and high school today, so they all had that support. On May 5th, there was a racially insensitive Cinco de Mayo post posted on the North Aurelius Elementary PTO page, or PT, whatever it is, I think it's PTO page. We requested that it be removed and that the district acknowledge some kind of harm, and we offered some educational content that they could share with their parents about the real Cinco de Mayo and what it actually means to our Mexican American students. They did remove the post, but no acknowledgement of harm was ever offered.
On May 7th, we submitted a statement in response to that May 5th Diversity Committee meeting, describing how harmful the district's inability to make a clear statement that racism is unacceptable, that neutrality is not okay, it's not winning in this district, and it's hurting our students, it's hurting our teachers, and it's hurting our community. We did not receive a response to that letter. On May 8th, Councilwoman Vogel nominated Rhiannon and I as a part of the Equity Taskforce, and what we are founding of the Equity Taskforce and what we're doing and what we're trying to do in the community. She nominated us for the joint recognition ceremony with City Council, and City Manager Stewart blocked it. She would not push the nomination through. So it kind of fell flat. It was discussed at a City Council meeting, which is posted publicly if you want to check out that conversation. It was really disheartening. There's a few City Council members who are very against what we're doing. And Councilwoman Vogel has been an advocate still alongside what we're doing. She supports us and wants to see this continue in the whole community. May 25th, that's where we are today. It's our first day of our webinar series. We have 4 or 5 more coming over the course of this summer that we're super excited about. They're going to be on different topics. And upcoming, we have June 5th is our first We Are the World story time at Bestsellers Coffee and Books. We are grateful for their partnership in that opportunity. And then just pushing the timeline out a little bit, June 13th is our Pride Picnic.
Yes. There was a question about was Dr. Tishner consulted on the Cinco de Mayo post? We have no indication that he was consulted on that post. I want to note before we move on, since February, a member of the task force executive committee has attended every school board meeting, full school board meeting, every diversity committee, and every policy and curriculum committee that has happened. So that's quite a lot. We have submitted public comment on every one of those meetings. If not, maybe we've missed one policy and curriculum meeting with public comment, but we continue to show up. So that's kind of a timeline of the things that we've done and what has brought us to this place where we're realizing this summer that we're going to be doing more education. We're going to be doing provide more community engagement opportunities to get us through the summer. So what's next? Kaitlyn and I are super excited. We're in the process of incorporating as a 501c3 nonprofit. This is a lengthy and costly process to all of us. It costs we're estimating about $2,000 to $3,000 for us to incorporate as a 501c3. We have an amazing attorney who is walking us through this process pro bono. And so they are not charging us to do this, but just, the filing fees and things like that. We're looking forward to bringing increased opportunities to Mason and the community in the future. I think, like I said at the top, in my advocacy brain, I thought, okay, we'll do an action for 6 weeks. We'll get some results. We'll get a response from the district and we'll be good. As you can see, we're now here several months later, and we've realized that this problem is endemic. It's systemic. It has roots that have wound themselves into city council, roots that have wound themselves into local business. And so we're facing a problem that has a multi-year solution. And so we are looking at a multi-year advocacy strategy. So because of that, we are filing as a nonprofit. We're very thankful for our executive committee who's been helping us through this process. If anybody's been through this, it is something else. So our next event is our We Are the World story time, and I'm actually going to have Rachel and Kelly talk about this because they have planned this amazing series. It's going to be a series. This isn't just a one-off thing. So go ahead, Rachel and Kelly.
Okay, so we looked at books and we had a ton that we loved, of course, so we decided to kind of make the different story times be on general topics. So our first one is just going to be kind of an introduction to advocacy in general that is very kid focused and kid oriented. We have 2 fantastic books. I'm going to start with the second one that's listed here, Say Something by Peter Reynolds. Is just a lovely book about saying something if you see someone doing something wrong, or also if you see someone doing something right. You speak up, you increase the positivity, the wonderfulness that you want to bring and see in the world. It talks about different ways to say something with your actions, with your words, with your follow through and everything that can involve. And then we have Strictly No Elephants, which is a little more of a fun side of things. It's one of those books that doesn't have the clear lesson. You kind of figure it out on your own, but a little boy has an elephant as a pet, and he's not allowed to go into the certain area because his pet is not an acceptable pet. And so he goes and finds people who have snake pets and all sorts of other unusual animals, and they figure out a way that they can make a community where they're all happy with the pets that they love. And it just shows how you can create the community you need. And so we will also at that have other books available. I have a few elephant and piggy books, like My Best Friend Has a New Friend and things like that, because I know my child is not always interested in sitting and listening to a whole story being read when he's capable of reading on his own. So we wanted to have this be open to everybody all the way up to 5th grade. And I know that those kids have not always a ton of interest in picture books. So we have drawing sheets, we have chats to have, and of course they will have these books at Bestsellers if you're interested in purchasing them. And we just want to have everybody come together and enjoy our first story time. And then as we go forward, we're going to look into different topics and find books on LGBTQ experience and the Black experience and other topics that are a little more specific, but we wanted to start with advocacy in general.
And Rachel, could you talk a little bit about Miss Lindsay?
Of course. So any parents of young children joining us tonight know our local Mason branch of Cattle has an amazing story time that is led by the famous Miss Lindsay. And she has generously donated her time for our story time in June and also our pending date in August. We will have another guest reader in July. But Miss Lindsay's story times are dynamic. She brings her ukulele. There's a lot of conversation, stories, play. It's just a really engaging time. And so I know a lot of us have been really missing our community, especially people with young kids. And so having her lead the story time will really feel, it'll provide support and engagement and community for our cause, our ideas, especially to help branch out on those ideas of diversity in our community. It's really important for our young children to hear that from their local celebrities.
And we want to say again, a big shout out, big thank you to Bestsellers for being willing to help us with this. So Bestsellers will have Strictly No Elephants and Say Something on shelves. Both books will be 20% off the list price. So you heard it here first. Make sure to buy those books and take them home. The story time will actually be on the courthouse lawn across from Bestsellers. We know that little ones need to kind of get their wiggles out, so we have a little bit more room over there. But definitely stop into Bestsellers, get yourself an iced coffee before you come on over. I will definitely be drinking iced coffee. So thanks, guys. This is awesome. Thank you, Rachel and Kelly. You've done a great job with this. All right, we're very excited about our Pride picnic. We're gonna have Noelle talk a little bit about this.
Hello, my name is Noelle, and we on June 13th from 3 to 6 at Rainer Park, we're gonna have a Pride picnic. So very simple. We're gonna gather, have some inclusive discussion, fun. We're gonna have food, we're gonna have music, we're gonna have face painting, we're gonna have some bags and games. So bring the kids, dogs on leash are welcome. And just come have fun and celebrate the LGBTQ plus community and all the allies that'll be there.
Yeah, we're so excited about this. We're gonna have some hot dogs and hamburgers available. We'll have drinks available as well. Make sure to bring a blanket. If you feel so inclined to bring a dish to pass, we'd love that as well.
We have a generous ice cream donation coming from Daily Scoop as well for our Pride.
Oh! This is the first I'm hearing of this, and I'm so excited.
You all heard it here first. So.
You all heard it. I even heard of it here. Oh, this is very exciting news. So ice cream, hot dogs, face painting. I might get my face painted. We'll see. Things will get crazy. So excited about this. So looking forward, this is our advocacy in action. I really am thankful for the community that we've built. And I'm thankful for the people in Mason who get it and have really come on board to support us. But this is hard work. it's hard work, it's scary work. I know Katelyn and I have faced a lot of repercussion in our community, and you know, we can be the first people to say that this is hard work. But we kind of wanted to say, you know, as we close here, there are lots of levels to this work. You know, it doesn't mean that you're going to be, you know, co-founding a nonprofit. It doesn't mean that you're going to be at, you know, the face of something. But I think these are 3 ways that you can really get some advocacy in action in your life. The first one of those is be open-minded, educate yourself, read, listen, ask questions. I know we as a group have been reading White Fragility, and that's been very helpful for all of us. Some of us have read the book Stamped. That's also a good one. There's a good book called, you know, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Again, another great one. We have several podcast recommendations if you prefer podcasts. Ask questions, you know, give us a DM, get in our private messages, and we will totally have a conversation with you. We want to spread and raise that level of education. The second way you can get some advocacy in action, be a community advocate. This is super easy. You know, speak up when something is unjust. Have those tough conversations. You know, don't be afraid to have those tough conversations. Educate your friends. You know, if your friend says something that you don't agree with, say, you know, hey, you know, actually, I don't agree with that. Let's have a conversation. These conversations can be hard to have, but they're fruitful. And so we definitely encourage you to be a community advocate. And the third one, help us drive change. Join our team. You can become a volunteer consultant. You can become a voice for change in our community. If you're interested in joining our executive committee, let us know. We're happy to talk to you about that. If you're interested in helping us with any of our events that are coming up, let us know. We'd love to have you come on board and help us with that. If you have an idea for an event, if you have an idea, you know, hey, actually Mason probably needs X, we would love to hear that. We want to make sure that, you know, our door is always open. You know, get in our DMs. We will definitely respond to you. We are all admins on our page, so if Katelyn and I are not there, somebody's going to get back to you pretty quickly. I'm gonna have Katelyn, do you want to have the last word as we wrap up here?
Sure. Just a quick thing, our next webinar, I think we're aiming for 2 weeks, but you will see some Facebook advertising coming for that on our pages. Our next webinar in the series is going to be questions that we are all afraid to ask. So questions about race, diversity, gender, questions maybe we want to know, we aren't sure of, that we're scared to ask because we don't want, you know, people to judge us, or we don't want to say something wrong or ask out of fear. So we're going to ask those questions and we're going to answer them. If you have any questions, shoot them to us privately. We are happy to keep you anonymous. We will ask the questions amongst task force members and answer them. But we would love to get community input for what you want to know.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for this. It's been great. This is being recorded, so it will be up on our Facebook and on our website. If you have any questions, any concerns, please, again, let us know. We're happy to answer anything. We hope that you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. All right, bye guys.